Hi, it's 1 p.m. here in Moscow. My name's Kevin Owen. Thanks for choosing RT International this hour for your news update. And the big news is in from Syria this hour. Let me tell you about that. Syrian army commanders say Islamic State has been completely driven out of the strategic city of Deir Ez-Zor, which has recently been the terror capital's de facto capital. Well, this is video just sent to us from RT's Rupley video agency. Deir Ez-Zor was considered one of ISIL's last bastions in Syria after they were wiped out from previously self-proclaimed capital in the city of Raqqa. The terror group's now lost most of its territory it claimed back in 2014. For its part, the Russian Defense Ministry saying recently that ISIL had control of no more than 5% of Syria. Russian air support's been backing Syria's anti-terror operations, of course. Okay, let's go now to Syrian journalist Ala Ibrahim. Hopefully you can hear me, Ala, on the line. Syrian army commanders are quoted in the state media saying that the city is now back under government control. Of course, as we were saying, it's a key win then against ISIL. What's reality on the ground there, like, as far as you've got a handle on it today?
Well, in the past 12 hours, the Syrian army has been clearing the last few neighborhoods and districts inside the city of Deir Ez-Zor of the remaining ISIL militants. As we speak right now, there could be some cells or some small groups of ISIL still entrenched in several buildings across the city, but this does not mean in any way that ISIL has any foothold in the city right now. The Syrian army has effectively managed to regain full control of that city, which is actually a major milestone in the fight against ISIL. While Raqqa was the more famous self-proclaimed capital and stronghold of ISIL, Deir Ez-Zor has always been the major stronghold of the radical group in eastern Syria, with its financial capital in the city of Al-Mayadin near the city of Deir Ez-Zor in the same province, with its security operations being run from the outskirts of the city of Deir Ez-Zor, where the radical group has been entrenched for years now. And many thought that if Raqqa would fall, ISIL would reallocate all its forces to try and take the city of Deir Ez-Zor and claim it as its capital. But as we all know, the Syrian army had a large garrison there which prevented that scenario.
Just to be clear, okay, the city is clear apart from maybe one or two pockets. What about the wider area, Deir Ez-Zor province? Is there a problem there, or is that clear too? Just to describe to our viewers.
Yes, the province of Deir Ez-Zor has been mostly regained by the Syrian army in the past few months since the operation began to break the ISIL siege on the city of Deir Ez-Zor. The Syrian army advancing south and west, from the Euphrates River is now approaching the last stronghold of ISIL in the province of Deir Ez-Zor, the small border town of Abu Kamal, located on the Iraqi borders. But today we have been hearing news that the Iraqi forces have been able to regain the Iraqi side of that border crossing in Al-Qa'im. So the Syrian army retaking of Abu Kamal town is only a matter of a few days unless something substantial happens. Aside from that town, ISIL has lost every town and village and every place in the province of Deir Ez-Zor that it has claimed control over in the past few years. Also, we have to mention that parts of the province is under the control of the SDF, the Syrian Democratic Forces, the US-backed militia group that has been actually also engaging ISIL in the eastern banks of the Euphrates River.
Ala, thanks for the update there. Appreciated, journalist in Syria for us. Thanks very much. Well, let's get more thoughts on it now from Martin J, Beirut-based journalist looking on at this news. As we were saying, Martin, I hope you can hear me. You're live on RT International. A significant bit of news this out today, isn't it? I mean, what would you describe it as?
Yeah, that's the right word. Definitely significant. I mean, it's a real milestone now in the timeline of the Syrian forces, when really things changed dramatically in September 2015, when Russia supported Mr. Assad and his and his forces. So I think they can certainly mark this down as a victory. The town itself is certainly an epicenter, a main hub of ISIS, so a real victory, and the last one that they can hope to achieve against ISIS, as most of the other areas of ISIS now are tiny little enclaves scattered across a wide area.
Nonetheless,
so,
are there tough battles ahead?
But well, I think the battles ahead won't be with ISIL. I mean, I think what will happen with many of these individuals will be there'll be a certain amount of running and hiding. Many of them will reintegrate into the villages and bury their machine guns and see what happens in a few months' time. The other battles ahead, I think, are more geopolitical. You know, you've got a few battles which may well be on our news screens in the next few weeks or few months. Turkey and Idlib. The Turks now have more or less secured Idlib to their satisfaction and are now talking about moving into certain areas of Aleppo, areas they lost previously, and they believed that they were somehow shortchanged in an agreement they had with Russia, if you remember going back that far. So that's one area to look at. Another area also is that there may well be, let's hope not, but it's certainly a possibility that SDF forces, this is US-backed Kurdish forces in the province of Deir Ez-Zor, will or might clash with Syrian Army forces, which are very close now. You may remember just 10 days ago, the SDF took a major oil field in that same province, and there's been a certain amount of speculation that at some point, now that Assad regime forces are free and are not spending all their time and resources on the city of Deir Ez-Zor, that they may well turn to these rebels, or whatever you want to call them, just down the road.
How long is it going to take for Syrians to rebuild their life here now, do you think?
Oh, I mean, anyone's guess. You're looking at possibly a decade, and the bill keeps going up. Some people have estimated more modest figures of $300 billion. I think that was the former Deputy Prime Minister in 2007, Abdullah Dardari, who I once interviewed, told me here in Beirut just last year a conservative figure of $300 billion to rebuild Syria. Others are saying much more. I think before we get to that stage, we have to really decide whether Syria is going to stay a de facto broken state as it is now, with a strip of the north being signed off, if you like, by Mr. Assad and accepted as a price to pay for peace in Syria.
Well, we'll track the twists and turns as they continue. Thanks for your input today. Martin J., Beirut-based journalist. Good to see you on the programme.